logistics of EF, the trip we're going to go on, and yeah, we're going to try to get this done. And then, like I said, feel free to stay afterwards for questions, or if you can drop them in the chat, that would be great. And definitely, if you have a chance to please sign up with this QR code. I think we also give it to you again at the end.
Yeah, we
'Cause
do.
that helps us to do a follow-up email and make sure everyone who came gets the follow-up info. So our agenda today, super easy. We're just going to hit the highlights, all the good things that parents want to know, all the things kids want to know. And Travis Rookley is one of my co-teachers at Sunset. He's one of the leadership, or he is the leadership teacher. He's phenomenal. He went to Japan with us last year. So he may or may not be joining us on this trip, but we're hopeful he'll be able to join. Um,
And also for Southridge families, Mr. Rookley taught at Whitford, and he knows a lot of you from his middle school years. He's only been at Sunfit, I think, for 3 years, Sarah, maybe
I think
three or
so.
four.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Anyways, I'm Scott Bernick. Welcome. Math teacher at Southridge High School. I've been there for, it's actually 21 years now. Mostly IB math, but I have an AGS 1 right now. So I hope some of my AGS 1 students might be here. I used to coach sports there. I don't anymore. I have a young kiddo that I don't have the time to coach anymore for. But for the last actually 7 years now, I've been a the travel kind of advisor at Southridge High School. We've been gone some cool places. Last year, we started to team up with Sunset High School. And we were able to get our largest group ever, which is a really cool trip to Japan. But I really love traveling with students. It's not something I get to, um, talk about in a math class on a normal experience on a normal day. So it's really neat for me to be able to do this.
Um, and I'm Sarah Bell. Been at Sunset for 21 years. So Scott and I started teaching at the same time, which is
Did
pretty
we
cool.
actually? When was your first year?
2004.
Me too. Okay, yeah.
Yep. And same thing. I love traveling with kids. I've done a bunch of different trips. Dublin, London, Paris was my first trip right before COVID. And then I've done a couple since. Food tour of Italy, which was phenomenal. I do that one again in a heartbeat. Central Europe, and then Japan was just like once in a lifetime. We had so much fun, and it was so cool to merge the two schools. So I got to know some teachers from Sunset and a bunch of kid or Southridge, and I got to know a bunch of kids. So it was just a really neat collaboration. And I love traveling with kids. I'm also the HOSA advisor at Sunset, so I travel a lot with kids. Um, and so yeah, we're excited to share our trip with you. EF Travels is a cool company, and Scott's going to tell you guys a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
Oh
actually, like go back to that why we travel. Like
yeah, go for
for me personally,
it.
and Ms. Bell saw this too, the growth that we see in a student in just a 10-day or 7 to 10 day trip is amazing. And so I get to work with students for a year long in my math class and I see some, cool math growth, but I think the independence that a student learns away from their parents, and sorry parents, we don't actually allow parents on our trips. We kind of feel like this is a great chance for them to be away from you prior to maybe going to college. But just the growth that I see, the maturity that I see, is really why I do this. I think opening their minds to a new culture is just something that it makes you uncomfortable, but I think at the same time that's really good for us. We're in Beaverton, Oregon. I think we're really in a comfort zone. We have a lot of things that we are grateful for here that we don't really even know about. And so when you start traveling, you're like, what? I don't have Wi-Fi at certain places, or I don't, I have to like eat some food that I'm maybe not comfortable with. But that's what I love about these trips and love about travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love seeing kids kind of shy on like day one at the airport, maybe not talking to a lot of people. And then, almost like 3 days later, it's a total game changer. Like linked arms, walking down the street, talking to people who may or may not speak English and having the confidence to do that and ask for directions or ask how to order off a menu. Like it really is almost an overnight growth. And it's just super cool. So I echo what Scott said. Travel dates. So this is definitely important logistics stuff. The way that group travel works is EF gives us a travel window that we have to basically set aside. So our travel window is July 6th through July 20th. And we don't know the exact dates of the trip until a couple months before the tour when the company actually books our flights and books our hotels. So we know the earliest we'll ever depart is July 6th. And then somewhere in that, it's a 9-day tour no matter what. So the trip is definitely 9 days, but it will fall somewhere between July 6th and July 20th. We've requested July 9th through July 17th. Usually, EF is pretty good about getting us almost exactly our requested dates, but they also always ask that families book or block off that chunk just in case there's something weird with flights or weird with hotels, especially if we're flying into kind of smaller airports. There's a little less flexibility. So if you're doing this with us, you got to block that window. And the moment we know our flights, we immediately send out emails with our exact trip dates.
I'd add to that, Sarah. So part of the way that EF, and we're going to talk about EF in a little bit. Education First is the name of the company, but part of the way they do it is if we don't if we're not a large enough group, meaning we don't fill a travel bus, they will pair us with another school that also wants to go to the Galapagos Islands around this same time. And so if they requested July 5th, let's say as a travel date, they might we might meet in the middle and get grouped up with them. So if we only have 18 students from Beaverton, we might be traveling with another 12, maybe 18 students from somewhere else in the States, and that might change our date a little bit. We were lucky last year that we had all 35 from the Beaverton area. So we filled a bus and we got our exact date. And I'll tell you the truth, there are so many, this is such a large company and there are so many groups traveling that I would say over 90% of the time we get our actual window that we're looking for. Okay,
Um,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, Scott, go for it.
So this trip is one that I've been wanting to do for a while. I don't know if there's any students on here from gosh, I guess it would have been 4 years ago, so they probably graduated. But we had this trip booked during COVID and it was canceled. And I was so looking forward to go to this trip 4 years ago. So we fly into Quito. We spend that 3 nights could change there. That could either be at the start or could be at the end. But while in Quito, we do some cool things. Obviously, we get the culture of like a South American country. One of the things in Quito, they had like the largest open air market in South America. I've just seen pictures of this, and I've had a couple friends who have done this trip from other schools, and they say that is a cool experience, the market. Another thing we do is that Otavalo is right on the equator. It's in the middle of the jungle, first of all. So it's like, it's in the jungle and it's on the equator. So we get to do the whole thing where we straddle the equator, where we stand, 1 foot on one side, 1 foot on the other side. So, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. And then I think, most of this, we call this the Galapagos Island trip. So most of the trip is spent on the islands. And so we fly out to the islands. We go to 3 different islands, which is actually kind of crazy. Um, so non-student travel trips, if they go to the Galapagos Islands, they usually only hit 1 or 2 islands. We hit 3. And I just if you like actually look at the individual itinerary, which we're going to give you at the end of the trip, a link to the site. Yeah, you can keep scrolling, but the individual itinerary is crazy for this. So this is some of the highlights that I really won't kind of go into the detail of, but talks about some of the stuff in Quito. Obviously, the wildlife is something that, Mrs. Bell is a science teacher, so it's right in her alley. I'm a math teacher, but this is just something that I've wanted to do forever. I don't know how long we're going to get to go to the Galapagos Islands as tourists, and just more and more places are getting protected, so I don't know if large groups are going to get to go there in the future, but yeah, I'm the pink flamingo habitat thing, like where else are you going to be able to do that? Oh, we get a snorkel, I think 2 or 3 times on the 3 islands. So, water, families, water is something that we have to kind of get you to sign off on, is being okay with having your student in water. And we have guides. We'll talk about some of the guides later, but yeah, so that's the itinerary, and it'll be more detailed on the website we'll give you later. The end of it. Oh, there's the market. I guess they say that at the end. I sometimes see with EF, they'll sometimes change the itinerary a little bit, and you might do the market or you might do some of the more keto stuff at the front end and or the back end. Food. Miss Bell, you can speak about this, but like some of the best things about traveling is the food is I like eating, different type of food. I just don't think that I did that much when I grew up. I feel like my mom made chicken like 5 nights a week, and we just kind of ate mostly the same things, which is great. It was really good food. But since going, I don't know, maybe after college and just in my professional life, I've just ventured out a little bit more. But but traveling, it's forced on you, and it's so cool. You come back and you learn to make some of the stuff that you enjoyed eating there, or you try to find restaurants that are like that. Japan was amazing last year, and I'm super looking forward to Southern American food. Kind of talked about the next one. Yeah, that's cool. The tortoises there, like some of the oldest in the world. Some of the, I guess we could get into the Darwin stuff. It's, where he developed the theory of evolution. I've got a couple when we were going to go on this trip last time, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. I sent a couple podcasts out that are some of the new research that they're doing in the Galapagos Islands that I'll send out again to those of you guys that are traveling. So that's really the itinerary. Yeah, straddle the hemispheres. And then you want to talk about EF? Why kind of we use them?
Sure. So, Scott and I have both worked with them for many, many years now. And I think there were multiple things that attracted me because we get offers as teachers to kind of join all sort of like different travel companies. And one of the things is they've been around for forever. So they're really established. They have so many different offices all over the world. So everywhere we go, there's EF people like on the ground. They've been around, like I said, forever. And one of the coolest things is they're accredited, just like our school. So Scott's going to talk to you about it, but you can actually earn credit for doing this trip.
College
Um,
credit.
yeah, college credit. So what's really neat is I think they're like top two priorities for us is are we safe and are we having fun? And really that's how our trip is designed. So they're always assessing and reassessing situations. They always keep their, eyes and, peeled and can make changes on the fly. If there's any kind of issue, like whether it's weather or whatever, they're just great at pivoting, and they've been doing it for so long. They're phenomenal at it. So, like I said, super safe. When COVID was happening, they were incredibly rigorous and often held us to higher standards than local places. They have a incident response team. Like I said, they have local people. Basically, everywhere we go, there's EF people. And then probably the most amazing part of our travel experience is we get a tour director who's with us from the moment we arrive in Ecuador to the moment we depart. So it's a local. They are someone who's usually is trilingual, multilingual, and they are experts in this area, and they are 100% our go-to. And not only that, but they're awesome. They're super knowledgeable. They usually have a wide range of knowledge in history and local facts. And, they're just like, it's kind of like a one man or one woman show, depending on who it is. But we end up all really bonding with our tour directors. I've never had a bad tour director. They're funny. The kids love them. We love them. And they're our first go-to if something happens. And
I can't, yeah, I can't speak enough to what that person means to our trips. And it says that 24/7, they are with us. They're away from their families for the whole 9 days. They are the ones calling ahead to the restaurants to say, oh, we have 3 people that are gluten free, or 2 people are peanut allergies. They just are doing, they're, I don't even know what you would like we pay for this trip, but it includes basically someone that's with us 24/7, and it's like it's priceless to me.
yeah. And they're just so much fun. We always really luck out. So we have like a travel team, we have a tour director who we're just talking about, we have online support, we have an emergency phone number that we give to all the kids that is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then, of course, group leaders. Some years it's Scott, some years it's me. But in a nutshell, we just have a ton of support besides just like us as chaperones. So we just feel really safe traveling with them. And any issue that's ever arose, no matter how minor or how big, has been handled with like quick professionalism and it gets taken care of.
Um, so another reason we choose EF, they offer a lot of things. They offer it's not even actually on here. They offer kind of like as soon as you enroll, there's kind of like a GoFundMe page where the student traveler can send out to their family and say, okay, hey, I really am looking forward to this trip. It's going to be a once in a lifetime trip. It's in the summer of 2025. Maybe it's my graduation gift. Grandma and grandpa, could you help chip in to pay for it? But one of the things I was going to talk about is college credit. So students, it's an extra fee. I think it's $200 or it's $270. But you can get 3 college credits, and you don't even really do much work for it. Once you get back from the trip, you enroll through EF, and actually, sorry, it's not even through EF. It's through a school in New Hampshire, actually, in the States, and then you transfer that credit to wherever you go to college in the future. But you get 3 college credits for really doing very little work. It's kind of an online class, kind of like when we were in COVID, but you usually write about some part of the culture that you witness. Maybe it's a food. Maybe you want to do a food project. Maybe you want to do it on the architecture of the area that we're going, or like on this one, like the wildlife. Like it seems like it's pretty Galapagos lends to a very, very, sciencey based kind of project. But that's one of the cool things about EF is that they offer this extra college credit through. You can actually even get high school credit, but generally because we take high school students, they don't really need the extra high school credit. That's more for middle school students going to like an East Coast trip. But yeah, they have lots of perks that really aren't even in this presentation that you'll see if or when you sign up.
So what's included? As we talk about price tonight,
Yeah.
the really cool thing about EF that I think makes it manageable for families is the cost of the trip covers everything. Like when I'm planning a trip to Europe with my husband or something, it's always so variable. Like we know how much the flights will be and how much the hotel is, but then the rest of it really can compound. Like how much is it to get into a museum? How much is it to
Yeah.
take a train?
Bus. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
what's really cool is the way EF does this is once you pay, everything's included. So the airfare, the hotels, the meals, the tour director, we pay a good chunk of the money we pay goes to them. Transportation. One of the great things is basically every new city we visit, we often have a local guide who gives us like a walking tour of the city and hits some really cool neighborhoods and highlights with us. Sightseeing, entrance fees to landmarks, museums, etc. So literally everything is covered, and so it makes it very easy and manageable for families to plan and kind of set aside how much they're going to pay each month, knowing that there's not going to be any surprises on the trip or right before the trip. You guys will know exactly the cost. So here's the cost. Speaking of that, we have been talking about this trip for a little while, and we always encourage kids to sign up as soon as possible because one of the really great things that EF does is they are willing to break the payment into chunks, kind of like a car payment, making it more family friendly and more flexible for more families. Because really, their goal is to make as many kids travel as possible. So they set the price, and then you can see a couple different methods. Some people just put the whole shebang on their credit card and rack up their miles. And then I would say most people just do like an automatic monthly withdrawal. That seems to kind of be the most common thing. And right now, EF is offering just like $100 off, just as like a little incentive if you enroll before midnight on October 4th. So it gives you a little time to think. But it's kind of nice. They're just trying to, sweeten the deal. And one of the things that we have thought about over the years and that we have done is we've done like a side-by-side comparison. If you tried to do this exact trip, just you and your family on your own without all the benefits of group travel, and you paid for everything in the same manner, and you did like I'm trying to think, like an Expedia or, TripAdvisor spreadsheet, EF is always dramatically less. So I think played that game for Japan, and Japan was going to be at least like $1,500 to $2,000 more if you tried to do our exact itinerary just you and your family. So it really does save us money. They're able to book flights cheaper, they're able to book hotels cheaper, they're able to get us discounts into museums. And so that's
Yeah.
something to consider when looking at the overall cost.
And I do feel bad because pre-COVID, this was about a $3,500 trip. So it's gone up significantly since COVID. And one of the things I read actually in the last few years is group travel to the Galapagos Islands. I guess Ecuador has put a giant, some sort of giant tax on it or some sort of extra fee that, so if you do price it, you have to also kind of look for this other kind of almost hidden fee now in the last couple of years. The Ecuador is priced on people trying to get to the Galapagos Islands. So yeah, I know I feel bad. This is a big number. 4,800. It's less than our Japan trip last year, but still. And I actually think I think it, Sarah, we marketed this trip to actually students, to Southridge and Sunset students a year ago. So like I think last October, and it was a few $100s less than that. So it's gone up even a few $100s since last year. So we realize what kind of stress this puts on a family. But again, I think, students, if you make deals with your parents and like this is time maybe to get a job and I'm going to pay off $1,000 of this, or again like I said earlier, grandma and grandpa, this is kind of can this be my graduation gift, can you chip in $1,000, or we try to do one fundraiser that I'll send a message out to for those of you guys that enroll, and we'll probably try to do that right away in the next month. But for the most part, students, this is like a chance for you to really have a conversation with your parents. Maybe you put yourself on a like a GPA watch where you have to get certain grades to be able to kind of go to keep going on like a trip like this. Or again, like I said, you pay for a certain amount of it. Um, I don't know. Like I do feel we do feel bad asking this price, but like we said, I definitely tried to price this trip pre-COVID the first time, and EF beat it by far. So I don't know now since COVID because things have changed with inflation, but again, like we get four flights, food, and then like what I said earlier, it's how do you price a 24/7 person that's with us all the time for 9 days straight? That's that person is amazing. So anyways, that's about it, I think, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing just to remember is travel's gone up. Like no matter where we're going, travel has increased. So any trip we choose, it's gonna, especially if we're traveling internationally, which is what we do for EF. We're flying all the way down to South America and all the flights and all the boat rides and
Yeah.
everything. But what's great is once you set this price, then really all your kid has to bring is some spending money, like for snacks and souvenirs and that sort of thing, and
And passport. But yeah, you have to buy a passport
buy a passport.
or pay for a passport, sorry.
Yeah, if you don't have one already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's a good deal. And I've had multiple kids pay for like half. That was the deal. Mom, dad all work, and I have my job at wherever, and they pay for half, and then mom and dad pay for the other half, and kids have a lot more ownership in the trip when they're on the financial line. And I think it also makes them appreciate it more and just really invest in it. So I think it's a great deal. And the sooner you sign up, the better, because basically every few months it does go up. And at a certain point, we just close the trip because either we book it and it's full and we run out of spots, or we just kind of have to close it because they got to start making the big plans.
And actually, one thing too is if you've traveled with EF in the past, even middle school or high school, I don't recognize any of the names in this meeting, but I think we do have actually two sisters that are traveling with us again. They get $100 off because they're repeat EF customers. So there's an extra 100 for that. If I don't know. Oh, there we go. So my son traveled last year with us. Who is your son? Was it?
No, with EF.
Oh, okay, okay,
But
yeah.
Miss Ruby Cardenas, who's
Oh,
our
yeah,
yeah. So they went to Thailand just this last summer to Thailand and
yeah.
Vietnam.
Middle school. So he's in freshman now.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
So
and then
$100 off, is that what we said if you've
Yeah, you get
traveled?
$100 off. I mean, they try to kick something your way.
and then the other thing that we just want to like definitely throw out there is this peace of mind program. So this basically gives our group the ability to flex our trip. Like say something, we're going to Paris and there was political unrest in Paris. If we didn't feel safe going to Paris for some reason, they would work with us and to basically flex our itinerary. Um,
Hmm.
so EF is just like they want us to travel, they want us to have fun, and they want us to be safe. On top of that, if you have a little more, you want a little more insurance. They have a couple different options. They have the Global Travel Protection Plan, which is about a little under $200, and this covers a ton of stuff. So it covers like lost baggage, lost property, trip cancellation, trip interruption. We're not going to go over all like the nitty-gritty of each of these, but you can look into these details on the EF website, and it literally spells out for you like how far in advance do I need to cancel to get a refund? How much of a refund can I get? And then the most aggressive one is the Global Travel Protection Plus. It's a mouthful. This basically gives you the ability to cancel for any reason 24 hours prior to departure, and you get most of your money back. But once again, we just encourage you guys to read like the fine print on those. And
Yeah,
then
I would say most travelers, if they do anything, they do that $190 one. It's rare that I think my travelers have done the big one.
it's there
Yeah.
though, in case any family, if it just makes you feel better.
If
Um,
your kid is in the sports and breaks an ankle the week before, like something like that, which actually Miss Bell broke a toe the day before or 2 days before
no,
Japan,
8 hours before we
8 hours
left.
before we got on the plane, and she was
Um,
in a walking
but
boot
I
for
was
part
a
of the day.
trooper and I
Yeah.
just trucked through Japan with my boot.
Yeah.
But we have a risk-free enrollment period, so EF really just wants you to, not feel nervous about signing up. So if you enroll by October 4th, you can still cancel for any reason up to 14 days after enrollment for a full refund. So that just kind of gives you a little wiggle room to kind of lock in your spot, lock in the price, and then you have basically 2 weeks to like really confirm this is what you and your family want to do. So it's kind of nice that they allow us to do that too. So here's where we are. We are at a 12 spots guaranteed. We have already a chunk of people who have enrolled, and we're hoping just to kind of fill the trip this fall and get our group. Because once we have our group, we can start sending out, like get to know each other emails. We used to meet for pizza and, kind of like do a big meet and greet as the trip got closer. So we would love for you guys to join us. It really is for me kind of a once in a lifetime trip. I mean, I literally teach about the Galapagos every single year for the past 21 years. I think I've seen every video of the, sneezing lizards and iguanas and the tortoise. And I mean, it's just one of the coolest, most biodiverse places in the world. And the fact that they still let tourists go there is phenomenal. And I know if you're nervous, EF has always been very good and assured us that we are not the tour group that, like disrespects the locals and, does anything to harm nature. Like that is definitely something they're aware of. So we just go with a responsible company, a responsible guide, responsible company. And I really
Yeah.
love traveling with them.
That goes the same with like religious sites we visit
Yeah.
too. Hey, I don't see the link to the website. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. So and then actually go back up. That says $200 off now. You see
Uh,
that?
yeah, I do.
I thought our travel kind of we go through a travel agent with EF, and I thought she said $100. So
We might
we
have
might
to double check on that.
I mean
I
that would
think
be cool. That would be
that,
cool.
I know. We might try to hold them to that, but we'll have to double
Yeah,
check.
exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying is like maybe we can, say, hey, this is what you because they send us this PowerPoint and we tweak it a little bit. We definitely didn't tweak that.
No. But we are happy to stay and answer questions. But here's your enrollment page. Once you log in and sign up, then you'll get access to like a bunch of information. Like what Scott was saying, the kind of GoFundMe thing, and just way more, in-depth info.
Specific itinerary,
Yeah.
um, a link to talk to EF directly if you have questions, links to see those insurance pages, some of their safety things. But definitely that top link. So that sign-in form is not as important, but that top link is if you really are serious in enrolling, that's like our page. So you'll see Sarah's the leader on this trip. So when you see that, you'll see a link to contact her, contact our travel agent, and then the full itinerary, like you said. But that's where you sign up. Is that one that's www.eftours.com and then our page. Yeah, I can't wait to see that turtle right there.